I don't know where he got it from. Copperhead. So hunting, then we went fishing for catfish, I remember. Hunting, fishing, camping, we'd camp out. And hiking was my favorite. We built teepees. My favorite tree was the birch bark, because I knew the Indians made canoes out of it. I always loved useful trees. I wrote books about it years later to show you how much I am in tune with nature. But the life I lead now with a microphone in the political world is so antithetical to my actual nature that I'm thinking of going back to nature.
Savage. Michael Savage. Afternoons 3 to 7. On Talk 910 KNEW. And online at 910KNEW.com.
Coming up next, from San Fran Freak Show, The Savage Nation. From Talk 910 KNEW.
I'm Kim Commando. You can keep up with all things digital Monday through Friday in the noon hour with My Digital Minute on Talk 910 KNEW.
Warning. The Michael Savage Show contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation. Here is Michael Savage.
Here are some of the things we've been talking about on the show today. American anger and the media, and the freedom of the Lockerbie terrorist. I guess he's allowed, the terrorist who blew up a plane over Lockerbie, Scotland, and killed over 200 people 20 years ago, is now being considered for release from a prison in Scotland. I guess he'll be allowed into the United Kingdom. In fact, he is in the United Kingdom. So let's see. The UK government will consider releasing a mass murderer, but they won't consider letting Michael Savage into the nation unless I repudiate remarks I never made. Welcome to the New World Order. American anger in the media. You know that anger is spreading across the U.S. The people have seen Obama's program. It's socialized medicine, and they're frightened, and they're enraged. And for the past week, you've seen that rage expressed in town hall meetings after town hall meeting. Real working Americans standing up against the machine. But the midstream media is doing everything they can to play down the town hall meetings and to defame the people who speak out at them. They've accused protesters of carrying Nazi swastikas. What you may not know is that some of these people are agitproppers put on by the Obama administration itself. I don't think you understand that the people bringing swastikas and guns are actually paid by the Obama machine, left-wing machine, to make the protesters look bad. It's right out of Saul Alinsky's playbook. It's right out of the ex-Soviet Union. Have you read about that fact? Not in your local newspaper. The media has even dredged up people to say that they were attacked by racist right-wingers. Made up, of course. Again, it's false stories. Here's someone that CNN managed to find, Maxine Johnson, screaming racism.
Before I knew it, I had 4 or 5 officers on me and one on him, and I said, wait a minute, he took my sign. And then 4 other officers began to drag me away, and I began to say, I'm going to press charges. I began to say, Obama, Obama. We went to the meeting purposely to support the voice of the people in our neighborhood, which is predominantly all black and some Caucasian, to make sure those people would get health coverage.
So you see now it's racist to be opposed to Obama's health care plan. If you're against socialized medicine, you must be some kind of Nazi. Listen to this. She makes the Nazi connection even more explicit.
As we looked around the room, there were several people in the room that had other signs. There was a person that had a sign that said, Obama's like Hitler. And there were other people with signs. They were not black. There was about 3,000 people, 30 African Americans. And then I asked another, I said, what was the problem? It was Rosa Parks, a historical figure. Why was it such a threat? And the woman said, ma'am, it wasn't Rosa Parks. You were the threat. You was a black woman. And then as the police officer took our report, they said, ma'am, we cannot guarantee your protection. You must leave this town. We cannot protect you. You don't know these people. They're nasty. It was clearly racial.
And this is the worst of all. Listen to her pure, unadulterated racism. And remember, she was set up to talk out by the same machine from Chicago that brought you Barack Obama.
You know, we were clearly the minority. If I was a white person, this would not have happened. In respect to Senator Claire McCaskill, she's not black. She doesn't know the struggle that black people go. When I go in my neighborhood with a sign, they don't attack me. You know what? As I've watched the video coverage on the TV and the internet, I really think that people are still upset that we have an African-American president. We still have some issues in America, and that's clearly obvious.
What's the difference? I know what's going on. I'm watching you-know-what go to where in that basket. You watch the fog coming into the under the Golden Gate at the end of the day. It reminds you of God. I mean, you know, if you're not a religious person, you can become a religious person. You watch the fog rolling over the hills of Sausalito down onto the water, or vice versa. You watch the fog lifting and the sun breaking through, and the sun breaks through. It's only people who live out here who understand, well, people who have an idea how beautiful nature can be. And then you read, you know, and we're playing Frankie Avalon for that reason, because I was talking about Catalina Island. Many people have heard of it. And it's amazing when you look at it, and you read about it, and you realize that it's part of a geological change. Catalina Island began as a part of the seabed, but a series of complicated plate movements created the island at least 20 million years ago. A chain of volcanic islands rose from the seabed off the California coast between 24 million and 5.3 million years ago. Complex earth movements shifted the island some 150 miles northward from near the Mexican border to its present position. Now listen to this. A spectacular ancient shoreline, complete with sunken river valleys, lies 80 feet below the Pacific, a mile west of the island. It's amazing to me when you realize that it is just a blink of the eye what we're living through here. The complicated lives that we lead, where we think we're building a future, and that there's always going to be a tomorrow like the tomorrow that your father had, or the tomorrow that you thought was waiting for you, can be wiped out in the blink of an eye. Never mind from man, but from nature itself. It's all a miracle. That's why if you read the Jewish prayer book, one of the earliest prayers, people don't understand this, one of the first prayers in the Jewish prayer book, which is the first of the monotheistic religions to have a prayer book. In it, there is a statement that says, thank you, God, for many things. And one of the things it says is, our body is filled with many orifices and many cavities. And if even one of these should close, even for a moment, we would not exist. And the religious pray to God for that, because they recognize every morning the miracle of waking up. Now think about the miracle of that in terms of conceptualizing that every breath you take is a miracle. I mean, I don't know if you could exist in that world. It's hard to believe that anyone could walk around, that in every breath they take, they realize that God gave them that breath. And what to do with that breath is the issue. What are you doing with it? It's too complicated to go into. I'm not here to give you any Norman Vincent Peale job here. But it is a miracle when you think about it. I mean, I don't know if you understand how miraculous life is. Now we come to America, the greatest experiment in the history of man, a land where freedom was supposed to be granted to every man. But the freedom was not free, and the freedom was not to be given to you by a government. It was a freedom that was given to you by God, and a freedom you were supposed to maintain, or else it would be taken away from you by despotic individuals around you who were no different than the British, but in some cases maybe worse than the Brits who once ruled this land as a colony. And now we have a government that may as well be a government of a foreign country, a government that is as foreign to the people, perhaps even more foreign to the people, than were the British in the early days of the colonies of the United States of America. You know what I'm talking about. It's summertime. Beware the Ides of August. Play me some music. I'll take some calls. 1-800-449-8255. I had the nightmare again last night. What is this? Yeah, turn it off. It's not my kind of music. I'm in the mood more for Frankie Avalon, something like Catalina. Who sings about Catalina? Because when I grew up in the Bronx, to me the idea of Catalina was like nirvana, that anybody could have a nice pastel shirt, a good haircut, and spend his days going to Catalina with pretty, like bunnies, or whatever. I was schlepping to high school, working in a clothing store after school. He was dancing off to Avalon in some Chris Craft. right? I mean, doesn't this evoke that whole era, like the good-looking Southern Californian?